She hails from the UK, Wales specifically. She is a leading advocate in the campaign against domestic violence, founder of Stand Up to Domestic Abuse, or SUTA.org. She sits on domestic abuse project boards, challenging the police and government. And along with two colleagues, she has written a domestic abuse course called Voice, Victims of Intimate Coercive Experience, which is now being rolled out in the UK. She has appeared on numerous TV, radio shows in the UK and articles and talked to people in media as far away as Japan. She is also the author of this book right here, The Devil at Home. It's all about her 18 years of severe domestic abuse, which ended in 2011. She's a friend of ours, and she was going to be in Vancouver, so we wanted to have her on Our City Tonight. It's a great pleasure to welcome Rachel Williams. Rachel, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're going to dive right into your story, and if you can give a brief synopsis, what led to your advocacy?
Yeah, so I was with a guy called Darren for 18 years. Met him quite young. I was a single parent at the time. He was very charming. And as we know, when you meet somebody who's going to be abusive, you don't get slapped on the first date. This is a drip feed process. And many years in, I knew the relationship wasn't healthy. Didn't know what exactly it was, but I knew it wasn't healthy. There was a lot of abuse. There was physical abuse, mental abuse, and it resulted in July 2011 him strangling me and then slitting his wrist in front of our youngest son Jack, who was 16 at the time. It was at that point the light switch sort of went off, because Darren always used to say to me over those years, there's only one way for you, and that's in a wooden box. So this was always in the back of my mind. He was 6'7", he was 300 pounds, he was a bodybuilder. We had numerous engagements he did with the police, and straight away I could see the police were frightened of him, and this was all documented in reports that he was anti-police, and they were frightened of him. So I felt like I was on my own. But after the strangulation and him slitting his wrist in front of our son, I thought enough's enough. So I finally left him. During a 6-week process, he stalked and harassed me constantly. It wasn't picked up, sadly, by my local police force as a danger, and it resulted in him coming to my place of work on the 19th of August 2011, brandishing a sawn-off shotgun, which resulted in him shooting me after a battle in the salon where I was working. After he shot me, the first shot hit my first leg. It was the fact that I was on the floor in a fetal position. So my left leg took the first shot, and the second shot skimmed past me. He then put the gun down, I believe, to reload. I had a supernatural strength. I couldn't retrieve the gun from me, so then he proceeded to pummel me with punches, kicks, stamped all over me. Then he fled the scene. I was rushed to hospital, spent 6 weeks in hospital, but the day of the shooting, I was told then that they found him, he had taken his own life. Which was a relief, but the tragedy in my story is 3 days after I came out of hospital, Jack also took his life.
Jack, your son?
My son, yeah, who was 16.
Just unbelievably tragic.
What really struck me about your story, there's so many things, is that you said to me yesterday that, no one would blame you if you ran away and hid or turned to drugs or alcohol, what have you. But you see this often, that people find that inner strength, and you got out there, and I know you're telling me, you've become a thorn in the side of the UK government, and you're getting stuff done, including this, I love this, non-fatal strangulation, which will be a standalone this year.
Yeah, so that is going to be a specific standalone offence now come May, which is going to be great, because I've not spoken to one victim survivor who's not been non-fatally strangled or throttled. I didn't realise the severity of being strangled. I was strangled on numerous occasions. It only takes the force of a handshake for pressure-wise on your neck and 52 seconds to kill somebody. And when we look at perpetrators using this, it's a tool to exert power. It's to say, I can if I want. So thankfully, this is going to carry up to a 5-year custodial sentence now.
Probably most women, you have the stats that you can share, have experienced some sort of abuse. Some have been fortunate enough to leave right away and go, but you're right, it's not always exhibited in the first while. Usually it's, I love you, I love you, I love you. Oh, you pushed back, this is what I can do to you. Talk about when people reach out to you and say, yeah, I didn't get shot.
And it wasn't as bad as yours.
No, severe, right?
Yeah. And what I say to victims and survivors, sadly, and for those that don't know anything about domestic abuse and coercion, domestic abuse is like carbon monoxide poisoning. You can smell it, you can taste it,
right,
but you just know when it's too late. And that's basically what it is. But when people contact me, and it's mainly women saying, my story's not as bad as yours, I'm not sure if I'm being abused or not, he's never hit me. If you're waiting for the violence, you've missed 98% of the coercive controlling behaviour. And that stems through every abusive relationship. And I say to people, if you can't make your own decisions, your own choices, lead the life that you want to lead, then you're being abused. You're being controlled.
The numbers have gone up dramatically, let's say, since the spring of 2020, 2 years ago, because of the lockdown. And all of a sudden people don't have the space, and you're not going to the office and they're not going to the office. You're confined to the house. Talk briefly about how these numbers have risen dramatically.
So, we anticipated that the numbers were going to rise dramatically because, we talk about domestic abuse. When you're living in that environment, it's like walking on eggshells. And I kept saying during lockdown, this is like walking on broken glass. Because, if you're in that household and, people underestimate the power and the strength of victims and survivors, they are classed as victims in that household, but they're actually surviving every day. They're strategically thinking and planning how they're going to pacify that perpetrator. They've got breathing space when they go to work or that perpetrator goes to work, they're looking after the kids at home. All of a sudden now, he's there 24/7. It's like a prison sentence, and we know the figures shot up. We know the United Nations figures 1 in 3 women from the age of 15 will experience domestic abuse.
It's globally, yes.
Domestic abuse or sexual abuse sometime in their lifetime. The red flags, once you see them, you can't not see them. And I think, the book has helped so many people. And not only that, to recognise, but also to empower them, to say there is life after domestic abuse and violence. And at the end of the day, I wasn't going to let one man ruin the rest of my life. And as you know, that I'm remarried.
To a great guy.
To a great guy, yeah.
He's a little too great of a guy. I can't be around him very often. No, he's a lovely guy. Hey, and what I wanted to mention to you, we've run out of time, but I want to encourage people to look up your colleague, Jan Monkton-Smith, and the 8 stages of abuse. Homicide. You mentioned to us too that you get emails from people, women from all over the world. So we're going to have all of Rachel's information in the end credits. Of course, the book is The Devil at Home, an honest explanation and narrative as to what you went through, and I congratulate you, as Lida's does, for turning that in and helping people get through this. Rachel, thank you, and by the way, I hope you're enjoying Vancouver.
I'm loving it.